Hey all, Taves here, and I am very excited to be playing some Planet Coaster 2. I've been playing around with this for a little while. Had a few days of early access. Thank you very much to Frontier for that. And you can see I've basically experimented with a water park here. I've got some complicated paths and systems going on and some rides and stuff. So I thought I would just share with you guys what I've learned. Some of the eccentricities, because this is going to take a little bit of getting used to for people. So I thought, yeah, I'd show you a little guide of all the things I've discovered so far about the pathing system. Obviously, bear in mind this is very, very new, hot off the press. So, yeah, take it with a pinch of salt because some of this stuff might change. Okay, so first things first, the way to access the pathing tool is by clicking on this little icon down here, or much more conveniently and really handily placed, all you have to do is double left click on an existing piece of pathing. That will take you into the pathing tools, and it will by default be set up to whatever you last set it to. So if you previously used Line Builder, you'd be in Line Builder. So I'll try and keep this as fairly simple and logical as I can. Some of these things are self-explanatory, so I won't go over them too much. So option 1 and option 2, so Line Builder and classic paths are fairly similar and behave in a fairly similar way. So what you get is once you've clicked onto this option, your mouse becomes, or your icon, your cursor becomes attached to the pathing tool, and left clicking once will start placing the path. Dragging now to the left or to the right or around will put your second point of the path in. So a click again will add the second point, and you'll find that the two pieces of path are now added. And should I choose to, I could carry on adding to that however much I like. And I can press Ctrl Z to remove those things. You obviously have the option of straight paths or curved paths. You have the option of suspended paths, which will do that, or ground paths, which will do that. It's basically just filling in the terrain underneath them. Something I just did there that you will have noticed is that whilst adding that path, see, as if I am running it along the ground like this, there is just the icon, but if I hold shift and I drag up or down with my mouse, then you'll see that the path elevates above the ground or below the ground, and you'll see a little white indicator appears, little vertical indicator appears to say that I have started that path at a higher point. Or if it's underneath the ground, it will be a dark cursor. By default, it seems that tunneling is on. So if I bring this above the ground at some point, there we go. It's a little bit confusing, which is why they've added that little vertical indicator, sometimes whether you're above ground or not. So we'll just take all that crap back out. And the connection tool, so we'll just add this. We'll just do this again. So intersecting terrain. Why are you intersecting terrain now all of a sudden? Oh, is it because it's set to suspended? There we go. Yeah, it's a bit takes a bit of getting used to this, guys, I have to say. The rest of these options are pretty self-explanatory. Line width, minimum line width is 4, although I'll get into a little workaround to that towards the end of the video. Maximum is 12, so you can see the difference between those two. Fixed length is fairly explanatory. By default, it will allow you to be as explicit or not with that. So you can say, yeah, the next node will be 24 meters, or will be anything you like down to off, and then you're just controlling it with your mouse or not. So likewise, to raise or lower is to hold shift and raise or lower the mouse. But equally, should I want to add a slope or a set of steps, for example, into that path, you'll see that clicking once on the existing piece I want to join it to, and then raising the mouse or lowering the mouse will either add a slope or a set of steps depending on how steep I make that. And you can pull, again, you can kind of create a really kind of nice slope if you want to. Again, you can do that by using the suspended or the ground option there. You have some extra options in there as well, which is slightly more advanced, but height snap, for example, will mean that you can only move up and down by specific increments in here. So rather than 3, I now am constrained to only go up and down by specific snaps. And when the path is red like that, it means it's too steep for you to place it. It's a bit like the step tool option that we had in Planet Zoo. So I might want to place, a fairly small set of stairs there should I want to. A little bit confusing, this notion of working height, but I'll show you how this works. So again, as I said, by default, if I click off of that, by default you'll be attached to the ground, hold shift up and down to lift it. But if you use that working height option, let's say you want to specifically have a 2 meter path and you know it wants to be exactly a 2 meter path above the ground, in fact we'll make it a 4 meter path, you'll see that it's added that line for you already. I can still go up and down should I choose, which is like slightly confusing, but by default it will place your starting point for the cursor at whatever that working height is. So it's a way of being exact about how high above the ground you are. A little bit confusing and slightly arbitrary, that, to be honest. You also have the draw tool, which I think is less useful, to be honest, but probably useful for plazas. In fact, let's turn that working height off. Sometimes you have to click out of the thing at the moment to get it to default back. There you go. So like the draw tool I think is useful for drawing plazas like that, but less useful for trying to actually draw like a single path, because you'd have to sort of do something like this for it, which is a little bit clunky. Don't think that works quite as well as some of the other things, but it does the job, but it's not quite simple. Stamp tool I think is really handy. So the stamp tool is seen across the game now, so you can place down various different shapes and sizes of stamps. So there's a square option, there's a big round, big hexagon, there's a octagon, there's a pentagon. Interestingly, there's not a circle, but if you place it in let's just make that a bit small so it doesn't use all my space, place in an octagon, you can then use this next option, which is the rounding tool. Let's just make the brush size a bit big on that, and then you can, should you want to, you can clean off the edges to a circle. And then the rounding tool is just used really wherever you want to. It's not exact where you want to round off the corners and things, but it can be useful. You see I just went from that shape to that shape with one click. Customize brush will come back to, and edit tool will come back to, I think. You can overlap paths as much as you like. So if we just choose a different style of path, in fact we'll have a look at the styles of path that you've got here. So let's just go, as I said, it defaults back to whatever the last thing you chose here was. But if we change this path style to this red swirly one and we overlap it, you'll see, interestingly actually, this is blue because I've set this previously to blue. But one of the really cool things is there's like, what is that? 10... like 19 different path types. Some of them are the sort of null versions. There's no properly null path option yet because you can't remove these little posts. But what you can do is actually paint over that texture as well, should you want to. But let's just add another. Oh, let's do it like that. So if I just add another one of those in, you can see that we're getting a colour. We've got 2 colour choices here. This is where the flexibility really comes, because actually what you're doing with the path is just adding the texture. So I can, should I choose to, add a Oh, that didn't work. Why did that not work? We'll get there in a second. Maybe I've changed the wrong thing. Let's just do this yellow and yellow. Confirm. Yeah, there we go. Okay, not quite what I did before, but it's new. It's eccentric. So yeah, I can add that, and then interestingly, actually, I can slightly confusingly within the add path function. This is where this customize brush comes into play. So let's say I want to change the color of this. I go into the add. So I actually set the color in this color option here, and then I go and I can press that customize option, and then I can change that section to apply those colors. And I can do that quite specifically should I choose to, just to one section. It's not particularly forgiving, that I have to say. It's quite depends on how you've set the paths up, really. But one of the cool things is if you get to so I can say copy existing texture, which will give me an option to choose an existing palette basically, and I can paste that back over. So if you set up your own set of colours, you can then reuse those should you choose to. Does it work on these? No, it does not work on those. Next option, and actually quite a hidden little option in that, is you'll see that these are all placing down with barriers attached. Now, I can, should I choose to, use this Customize Extras option, and I can set for a brand new path, I can set from several different options for rails. I can have rails off, and I can do the same for path supports, and we'll come to those extra bits in a second. But so let's say I want to choose, let's choose a style. We'll say no rails, and we'll just use the line tool for now. And you see that places down with no rails, and if I'm overlapping an existing piece of path, it will replace that style with the new one that I've pasted in. You cannot, at the moment, from what I can tell, something that's different about this again to Planet Zoo, for example, is that curbs are always by default shown, and you cannot, unlike in Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo, you cannot push the terrain and reshape the path. So whereas these are always solid paths effectively, so it doesn't really matter whether you put it on the ground or not. At the moment, they are solid paths like that. So in Planet Zoo, you wouldn't be able to move that path, for example. You'd have to be able to, change the terrain and then move the path afterwards. So last things, a couple of things that are interesting, probably a little bit more advanced things here, are if you want to use the Customize Extras option, and so let's say you wanted to change the railings on this, you can use that in conjunction with that edit tool. So let's say we want to use, we do want rails, and we want it to be that rail. If I go back to the Customize brush, I can now change. In fact, I can do it. Let's do it. Let's just so we can keep this consistent. Let's do this on a piece that I've already got that same path style, because I've set up my brush. So if you notice, I can change. It's a bit fiddly, but notice I can change. So there we go. Look, I can change one side of the barrier. Again, it's fiddly as this, but you can definitely do it, and I've done it on a few places. There we go. Look, you can change one side of the barrier. Maybe if I change that, brush size is as small as I can get it. And then obviously likewise is the same if I want to have only one side that's got railing, which is, again, that's a new feature we didn't have before. Again, it takes a bit of fiddling around with, but you can definitely do it. The last option to show on that screen is the, and for some reason this works, it only works when you're adding a new one. So if I want to say, if I want to by default add these path extras, so if I say turn that on, I now get the option to say I want bins by default placed, and I can adjust the spacing of this. so that they will place all the way along that path, and I can say whether they want them on the right, both sides, alternating sides, or on the left hand side. And obviously I can do that as much as I like, and then you get the same choice with benches. I haven't found a way yet to have this selective for both benches and bins. Oh, hold on, maybe I've just done it. Hold on. Have I just done it? Let's see. No. I've not. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be a way at the moment you can do both of those. And then the very last thing, which I think is a super cool feature, is, and this is the chef's kiss moment, guys. This is the thing that makes the slightly fiddly eccentricities of this so much more acceptable. So the last option on there is this edit tool, and I think this is the thing I'm going to be using all the time. So as I said at the beginning, you can place down a minimum width 4 meter path like so. In fact, let's just do this. We'll do this suspended so it's out of the way of that other clutter. So if I place down a minimum width piece of path of 4, not with a piece of ground on it. Up here, please, game. Thank you. And let's just put, let's do a set of stairs as well. See if I can get a set of stairs in. Okay, cool. Right. And then our little platform. This edit tool allows me to click any node I want to. Now, in some cases, you might just want to take a single node and drag and reshape the path, which again allows real flexibility. Or, in other cases, I might want to say select a group of nodes, like in this case, and change the scale of that path. So obviously my bin's in the way there, but yeah, that's how you get to really little, much smaller individual pieces of path. And I've tested this all out. It does really work because I've got guests over here walking on much smaller pieces of path. I think that's pretty much it, guys. Like, as I said, it's really cool. Lots of new features in this. It will take some getting used to. Hope you enjoyed that one. Hope you find Planet Coaster 2 as exciting as I already am. My name is Toves. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.